Hello, John Najarian here. If you want to trade like a rebel, if you want to party like a rebel, well, you got to come to Rebelcon 2022. It's going to be in Dallas, Texas, at the fabulous Four Seasons Resort. We start the 21st of September, go until September 24th. It will be more fun and more live trading than we've ever done before. That's why it's called Rebelcon 2022. We're going to have barbecues and double the amount of live trading. So if you want to book that now, make sure you do, because the guest speakers, as soon as we announce those, this thing's going to be sold out. It's going to be something you do not want to miss. Limited to 250 people. Sign up now for Rebelcon 2022 at the Four Seasons in Dallas, Texas.
Welcome to the Rebellion.
Good morning. I'm Pete Najarian. This is The Take for Market Rebellion. I've got another wild ride for you yesterday. Obviously, we knew there was going to be something when we know the Fed was going to be releasing the minutes and some of the reaction to that. And certainly we did get that. As a matter of fact, the Dow actually jumped about 300 points around that time frame and was up about 245 points after getting that big lift to the upside. But final 30 minutes, a little bit of selling, and the actual Dow actually ended up finishing the day up about 70 points. NASDAQ, kind of the same story. It turned and burned. It was ripping to the upside about 140 points off of where it had been to get up to about 110 points or so, only to just pull back last 30 minutes of the day to finish the day up about 40 points. Now, volatility continues to be in this range, 26 to 28, let's call it. Finished in the 26s, the upper 26s yesterday. Story of the day for me, though, was, and it didn't get enough attention, I don't think, was the big turn in the crude. Now, everybody talked about the drop in the price of crude, but how about the turn in crude? Crude got down to 95, but didn't close there, actually ripped to the upside to finish the day at 98.50 and almost getting back towards 100. Today, we've got even a little bit more news on the crude, but we'll get into that in just a second. 33 million contracts yesterday. Felt like a pretty slow day. It was a pretty slow day. If you look across and look for anything that went over 1 million contracts, only Apple traded more than 1 million contracts yesterday. Just to give you a little bit of an idea, it was a little quieter. We talked about that yesterday on the take in that first hour, but certainly a very, very interesting day nonetheless. When you look at the price of crude, and we talked about that, how about the recovery there? It was down about 3%. That got cut in half. Then you take a look over at technology, had a nice little bit of a move to the upside. It was up about 1%, really just cutting through all of the rest of it. The interesting story for me, at least yesterday, was what we were seeing happening with financials, the 2-year, the 10-year, what was going on there? A little bit of a bump higher, 2-year approaching the 3, right around 298. You had the 10-year at about 293. Gives you an idea of we are starting to see that pick back up again, and who's going to be first to get back over 3 if we get over 3, which we have today. I'll tell you in just a second. But there was a lot of negative going on, especially early on, and it was a pretty interesting market. You had the cruise ships getting battered pretty good yesterday, Royal Caribbean and Carnival and Norwegian all getting beat up yesterday. You had the FANG Diamondback as well as EOG when you're looking at some of those beta energy names, which we talk about a lot of the time, but they did move off of those lows, but nonetheless getting hammered pretty good. Then those Chinese names, PDD and JD and NetEase and Baidu and all of those, all getting beat up a little bit yesterday, along with Walgreens and Disney and Goldman Sachs, obviously Chevron taking a little bit of a beating. But there was obviously a lot of positives out there as well. Northrop Grumman being one of those, Moderna, Lucid, we talked about all that option activity. They were in there one day. They sold those because they'd already doubled. They were in there again. It was very interesting to watch that. The EV space was pretty hot yesterday. We had Marvell moving to the upside along with Cisco, United Health. So we had a little bit of a bounce there and went definitely an interesting day. But you get into today, people are talking about inflation. People have those worries. Are they backing off? What's going on with the markets? Well, in the pre-market, we were up about 100 points and the NASDAQ up about 40 points. Kind of getting back to some of those gains that we had initially after we were listening to the Fed minutes and some of the reaction there. We were up 215. Next thing you know, we were up nearly 300 points for the Dow And then we've been kind of on a steady pullback back. Last I looked, we were up about 160, 170 points on the Dow. The NASDAQ's been just kind of chopping wood and going a little bit higher as we've gone through the session. Started the day, as I say, up about 40. Just in the first hour or so, we're up somewhere between, call it the 155, 175 range for the NASDAQ. Pretty interesting day. Look at crude. It was 99 yesterday towards the close. Now 103. Pretty substantial move to the upside. Bitcoin over 20,000. That's something a lot of people keeping a focus on. That should be. There's a lot of news each and every day about what's going on in the crypto space. We have dropped below those 26s, but still very close to 26 for the volatility index. I mentioned the 2-year being a little bit higher. It's higher today. It's actually over 3 today, as a matter of fact. And you've got the 10-year kind of pushing that 295 area as well. So we are seeing that movement to the upside. Will that start to impact what we're seeing in the markets themselves and maybe a little bit of selling? So far, it has not happened. We'll keep an eye on that very closely. Energy, the definite winner today, based upon what we were just talking about. Not only did they cut in half yesterday's losses early on, but today adding another, call it close to 3.5%. Materials did get a little bit of a pullback as we've gotten a little deeper into the day. Industrials as well, but it's technology, and specifically it's the chips, realizing that that is not a sector, it's a subsector, but nonetheless, chips up about 3.5% today, really recovering and actually making up for the last week or so, because even with the movement we've gotten out of the chips, we are just getting back to where we were exactly a week ago. So that gives you a little bit of idea. Just take a look at the SMH. You'll see what I'm talking about there. Technology started off the day pretty good. It's improved as well. So pretty interesting start to the day. We had that announcement last night for GameStop with a 4-for-1 split. That stock, at least early on, was up about 8% or more early on. So that's something that definitely stood out as well. What else is really working? Well, in the material space, we had names like Freeport and Nucor right out of the gate. You had those beta energy names, just like the downside. We're hitting it to the upside as well. Schlumberger, APA, Marathon Oil, Valero, all of those moving to the upside. And then, of course, I mentioned the chips. You've got Marvell, you've got Qualcomm, you've got Applied Materials, everything within that semiconductor space having a really, really nice bounce back and continued move today. Pretty strong. Caterpillar, Boeing, Chevron, American Express, JP Morgan, all having a pretty good start to the day. What's not doing well, at least early on, was names like Johnson Controls, JCI, and not a name we talk about very often, but Colgate, some of those staples. As a matter of fact, everything was green early, but the first to actually kind of dip back into the red were the staples. So that kind of stands out. Procter & Gamble in that group, J&J from the healthcare side, NetEase from the Chinese side, all in negative territory. Nothing huge, but we are seeing some red there. I got 2 unusuals for you, and then we're out of here. Tesla is my very first one. Stock was trading right between 695, 696, all the way up to about 708. And in that price range, that's where we saw some significant buying, about 6,000 of Friday's expiring. That's tomorrow. So you've got less than 48 hours. The 710 calls. Well, the stock has already been making a pretty substantial move. We'll be keeping an eye on this to see if there's any further activity. I will tell you this. In the EV space, we are seeing option buying, and it just seems to continue. Had a lot yesterday throughout the day, seeing a little bit more even today. Those options, by the way, in Tesla were going for just under $8 and just over about $11 for those options. 6,000 of those trading. Secondly, now this one's a little bit different. It's going to surprise you probably, but it's in the SPDR ETF, I know. But in the SPY, stocks are all moving to the upside. People seem to have a little bit more of a bullish tone. We had a solid day yesterday, some gains once again. And yet they're buying puts out there in the SPDR. It does make you kind of scratch your head just a little bit. Keep an eye on that 10-year and the 2-year. That's my advice. But as we're seeing that happen, 30,000, and they're going out in a little bit of time. They're going out to August of the 367 puts. By the way, this is a spread. They're buying those. They're actually selling the 363 puts. That all being said, those 367 puts were going for about $6.50. That spread that they're putting on is costing them about $1. So $1 to make 4 if the stock were to drop significantly underneath that 363 area. So that's a smart trader who wants to have a little bit of leverage, wants to have a position to the downside, not trying to be necessarily just an all or none type of a thing, but using that volatility as well. Interesting trade. 30,000 of those puts being bought today in the spider. Folks, hope you have a great day of trading. It's been a wild ride already. It's a shortened week, and yet nonetheless, Thursday, we're looking ahead to Friday already, but it's going to be a busy afternoon. Have a great day of trading.